My name is Dylan Struble. I'm 25 years old. I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and I am shunned.
All right, Dylan. So how'd you get to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses in the first place? Were you born in?
I was born in. I think I was a third generation.
Okay.
Yeah, my great grandmother was found in the door-to-door work. And she actually passed away not too long ago. She had made it to 104.
Oh, wow.
And
you got good genes.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. Funny part is she was born in 1914.
Oh, wow.
So,
the generation that will not pass away, right?
Right. Yep. And she was a living testament to the falseness of that statement.
Yeah, 100%. Wow.
But yeah, I believe the story was that she had a miscarriage very early on. And shortly after that miscarriage, the witnesses found her in the door-to-door work. And I believe someone in my family, I think it was my great aunt, her daughter, who is also an ex-Jehovah's Witness, told me that one of the main reasons she loved the Jehovah's Witnesses is that she had some books for her coffee table.
Hey, whatever floats your boat,
right?
I guess.
Yeah, just generations of suppression based on somebody having a couple new books.
Hey,
for
but
their
that coffee table looked pretty sweet.
I bet it did. Yeah, with its solid colored cult books. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
but you see there, you've got somebody who is vulnerable. They've had a miscarriage, and then just through pure happenstance, even witnesses knock at the door. The timing is right. You've got a vulnerable person, and suddenly, they're escaping into a belief system.
Exactly. Yeah. It's funny how just such a small life event can change the course of so many lives. I mean, that really does seem to be the tale for a lot of people and how it went.
Yep.
But she had my grandmother met my grandfather, who was quite a force in our local area. Everyone knew my grandfather. He was a circuit overseer for a time. So had quite the lineage from that point. They had my dad, obviously raised in the religion as well. Dad met my mom. She was also raised in it, had a bit of a rough start herself, but then got pretty into it. And then two sisters, and then me. So I'm the youngest.
Okay. So the youngest of three then, right?
Correct.
Much difference in age between you and your sisters?
3 years each. So 3 years up from me is my middle sister, and 3 years up from her is my oldest sister.
Okay. So then were you around when your grandfather was a circuit overseer?
I think it's either no or they stopped very, very early after I was born.
Okay.
I never knew him as a circuit overseer.
Okay, I was just interested because I was like, wow, that's an interesting. I don't think we've had anybody on the podcast yet who, at that time actively had a relative who was a circuit overseer or something. And I just thought that's kind of an interesting element, and probably a lot of pressure if you have an active circuit overseer as a father, grandfather, whatever, right?
Oh, for sure.
That would be a lot.
He passed away in 2004. Okay. So I was born in 97. So when I'm terrible at math. Let's see. So I was like 6 or 7 years old when he passed away.
Okay.
So I do remember him quite well from those years, but even if he was a circuit overseer at any point during that, it wasn't something I fully grasped or understood.
Yeah, you were too young anyway, probably.
Yeah.
So, okay. So then so you were raised in this. This is all you've really known. what was the worldview it gave you as a little kid?
It was pretty intense. Like, obviously being born into it, it's a intrinsic part of my entire life and worldview.
Mhm.
So it was always an aspect in the back of my mind, like it had to, this was it. This was the way things were. Like, how fortunate of me to be born in this way of life out of so many people on the planet. Like, I know the true God and that sort of thing. So I believed it. I was for a really long time. I really did think it was the truth. And I had difficulty motivating myself to do personal study. And I think I was 16 when I got baptized. I was a little bit late considering how early some other people got baptized. And the reason I got baptized wasn't just because I all of a sudden I believed in it more. I literally was just like, it's getting kind of late.
Oh, okay. Well, and really, isn't that, I mean, like, once you are getting around that age, and especially as you get, the closer you get to 18, the more pressure tends to ratchet up, and people
Yeah.
start to look at you a certain way in the congregation. Did you catch any flack for not being baptized?
I didn't actually.
Really?
Not that, I mean, maybe I did and I'm just not remembering it, but it certainly was not intense enough that I remember for sure, oh, they were like pushing it on me. It was a lot of under the surface pressure though. However, friends are getting baptized, all my other family members are baptized and doing things. And I wanted to pioneer. I wanted to go to Bethel. So I was like, let's get this in motion so that I can really get a jump on things.
You had those big dreams too. Let's
Yeah.
let's try to find out a little bit where those dreams came from. So looking back, earlier in your life, when you were a kid and you're growing up, pre-baptism, were you all that, go-getter witness family that was at all the meetings, always out in service faithfully on Saturdays and probably Sunday, and doing all the things?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I had mentioned earlier, my grandfather was quite well known in the area. You could name drop my grandfather at any congregation in New England, and more than likely somebody knew him. So that was definitely a pressure for the entire family to be on point. So yeah, growing up, we were always there. We were the constant. The Strubles are at every meeting, and at least one, or if not all, the Strubles are out in service on a Saturday. My dad was an elder for a decent amount of time as a child. Again, not in any space of time that I remember. A life event happened that kind of threw a monkey wrench and all that, which we can get into that for sure if you'd like.
Sure.
But yeah, and then growing up, my sisters both started pioneering. They remained pioneering. So that was a pressure on me, and I really wanted to be in that. I wanted to be viewed like they did. So a lot of people in my family were golden people. They were golden stars. Especially after this said life event that happened. Once everybody got their so-called ducks in a row and kind of recovered from it, everyone was pretty on point, except for my dad. My dad never really recovered from not being an elder. So that he was always sort of the odd man out, as it were, where he wasn't considered like somebody who was not good to be around in the congregation, but he never got his zeal, as it were, back up to where it used to be.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think so. May I ask, what is the event that happened? I mean, it sounds like it was something that not just impacted you guys as a family, but it sounds like maybe particularly impacted him.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And I don't know if there's a lead up to this that you need to build up.
Not in particular. And we can jump around through like the years of my life. It doesn't need to all be chronological. But yeah, so my parents got divorced when I was 6, or separated. I should say separated when I was 6.
Okay.
So mom and dad, my dad stayed with my grandmother. My mom got her own place. And this was we were not surprised as children because for some reason they were getting distant from each other. So, and when they separated, they didn't make a big to-do. They were just kind of like, all right, mom's going to be living away from dad. Dad's going to be living away. And it was very, I don't want to say insidious, but it was like, because there wasn't any malicious thing about it, but it was very like, I don't remember it being a big event, them getting separated. So it kind of just happened that they split apart. Okay. And then eventually they did get divorced. So obviously, once I was a certain age, what's the only reason why a witness will get divorced?
Right. For someone has cheated on someone.
Yeah, infidelity, right?
Sexual infidelity crime.
And it doesn't happen unless that happens.
Yeah.
Like, and yet, you know, my dad did lose his elder. I don't know if he lost it or if he quit. And I believe it was crazy because a lot of this I learned after the fact, but my grandfather stepped down as an elder because of the whole situation. The internals of like handling the case of my parents got so heated in our local congregation that my grandfather was fed up and he was like, I'm stepping down. So
and so the internals got so heated, but it sounds like your parents weren't even heated with one another, or at least not.
Oh, they were.
Oh, they were?
Yeah,
okay.
But not in our presence, thank goodness. They were very good about not making this on the surface.
Okay.
I don't even remember my parents fighting. Like, that's how crazy it was. But it was my mom. She cheated on my dad. I learned that when I was 19. My dad finally told me what happened when I was 19.
Okay.
And he had tried to give her another chance, and then I guess it just didn't work. So that was big in our congregation. That was a big scandal for a while, and my mom got really depressed. There was some major depression that involved the hospital visit with her, and she was very off for a while.
And did she end up getting was there discipline from the congregation? Was she disfellowshipped or reproved? Or?
I'm pretty sure she was reproved, but she was never disfellowshipped.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think she was disfellowshipped.
So you have a situation where, you know, two people, like you said, it sounds like there was some distance there. Maybe, I mean, I'm kind of the belief that really all Jehovah's Witness marriages are set up to fail. You typically have very good grounds for the relationship and the dysfunctional environment to be in anyway, being one of Jehovah's Witnesses to a large degree. So people really don't know who they are. So how can they give the best of themselves to somebody else?
Absolutely. Well, and they got married when my mom was 19 and my dad was, I don't know, probably 23, 21, somewhere in that range. So
what do you know at 19?
Yeah, exactly. I'm 25 and I don't want to get married right now.
Right.
Like,
right. Well, the brain's not even fully developed till around 27. you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you have people getting married who, I mean, not only are you 19, but you're a stunted 19,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because a
Absolutely.
19-year-old witness has had very little life experience or exposure to anything outside of the witness realm. So yeah, never even a chance to figure out who you are.
No, for sure. So yeah, they split, and us kids, we jumped back and forth between them in one congregation. We would actually bring our stuff to the Kingdom Hall and go with the opposite parent, depending on the week that we were with.
Okay, so you all stayed in the same hall?
Yeah, yeah.
And were you all still this, you know, the Strubles are a constant, right? Were you all still this constant? I mean, even with all this turmoil, were you still at like all the meetings, always out in service and all that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
In fact, I think for a while, it was us three kids with both parents on either side for a decent amount of time. So they were, the one constant was that we were all still always at the meetings. So they were into that. And eventually my parents started seeing other people. And then my dad got remarried first. And then my
How were you
mom,
when that happened?
I was 9, I think.
Oh, okay.
So about 3 or 4 years later, he got married to a very young witness woman. That was a little bit of a scandal at the time, but I'm of the mindset that my dad and his wife are very much in love, and also like are good people for each other. And now they've been together for, I think, close to 15 years.
Okay.
So it wasn't a failure by any means. And then my mom got remarried to an English guy who had moved to the States, and he became an elder. He was not always a witness. In fact, he was once a Scientologist before being a witness.
No way.
Yeah. So he loved to tell that story about how he's like, oh, I used to be a Scientologist, and now I'm so happy I left, and I've found the real truth. And I'm like, now looking back, I'm like, it kind of makes sense that he went from one cult to the other.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you don't get healing as to why it is you are so susceptible to cults, you're just gonna fall prey to the next one. And he just from the frying pan and into the fire, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
So he either was an elder, or I believe he became an elder a few years after he married my mom. And him and my mom went much farther than my dad and my stepmom did. Only really thing you need to know about my dad and my stepmom is that eventually my stepmom became a pioneer, and remained a pioneer for a long time. I believe she still is a pioneer. How far is she going to go with that? Obviously, it's like, and my dad's not an elder, so their story kind of, in terms of witness stuff, ends there. They don't really do much. But my mom and my
now wait a minute. You say they don't really do much. I mean, she's still, I mean, compared to circuit overseer status, sure, but I mean, they're still just, so your dad he's just today he's a publisher in the hall, and your stepmother is a pioneer.
Yes.
Okay, so there's
unless something's changed. Yeah. Oh yeah, there's still witnesses, very much so. Okay. I don't know, maybe my dad became a ministerial servant or something like that. I doubt it.
Okay. But still a faithful witness.
Yes. Yeah. And we can get into this later, but my dad is one of the few people who still has some contact with me. So we can touch on that later. But my mom and my stepdad, they both started pioneering in the local congregation, and eventually decided that they wanted to, I can't remember the term, which is a good thing because I don't want to remember all these terms, but reach out.
Okay.
And they went into the French congregation in Portland, Maine. And they moved to Portland, Maine, and I, being still a young child and wanting to spend time with both sides of the family, spent a significant amount of time and started to learn it as well. So I was in a foreign language congregation for a time. And my parents had a meteoric rise in that congregation, eventually going to the point where they had made several missionary trips to Africa, and have done so much with that. And my mother became a different person, and it was crazy to see the change. I mentioned that she struggled with depression. It seems like the only way of her being able to cope with her issues was to fully put herself into the religion, to the point where I feel like she became kind of a shell of her former self. Like, everybody wants a parent that you can go to with any problem and just have them listen and be empathetic or sympathetic towards you. And I remember I just stopped wanting to bring anything to her, because the only answer I would ever get was something about the Bible or praying to Jehovah. And I remember just being like, it's not going to solve every problem I have. Like, I still believed in it, but I'm like, these are my personal issues. Like,
if nothing else, you want a conversation with a human being, not a book.
Exactly. Yeah. So my relationship with my mother kind of got a little bit strained. Not anything that crazy. I still loved her, but I definitely started to feel more of a connection with my dad, who for a long time, like I mentioned, struggled to be a big contender in the congregations. He let a lot of his personal pursuits kind of take over his time, which obviously now looking back, I'm like, that's a good thing. I'm glad that he did that.
What was he into?
Well, he was a photographer, both like in business and hobby. So him and his wife did wedding photography, and a lot of that time was spent doing that. And then also music, to the point where he actually had and continue to has a band that he'll play with that aren't witnesses. They'll actually play out and do things. And he got some pushback for that, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Now, what does he play?
Like what kind of music or what instrument?
Oh, yeah. What instrument?
Guitar, and he sings too.
Okay. Well, I guess what kind of music?
He likes all sorts of music, but his band is a Midwestern swing band.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So a little like he likes to go out and play in like cool hipster bowling alleys and like block parties and events and stuff like that, and just be one of those bands on the side that, people are kind of walking around and, oh, that sounds nice.
So it sounds like your dad kind of started to find himself a little bit, and your mom kind of lost herself a little bit and started becoming just more of a one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean,
pawn.
A
pawn in the system.
Right. A cog in the wheel, so to speak.
Exactly.
Wow. And I can really see how, your stepdad coming from Scientology, I could see where he could really get into the works aspect of being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, because when you think about it, like Scientology is so works dedicated, especially if you go to the Sea Org or something, you give up everything for that thing.
For sure.
And I don't know how deep he ever got into it, but yeah, I can definitely see him being attracted to that aspect of it, and how you all could go. He could get in, be one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and then as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, if you do all the things, you're not just a cog in the wheel, but like you said, you kind of become a big deal if you do it right.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And he got a lot of respect from a lot of people. He was an imposing man. He's very tall, soft-spoken, English accent. That's a very attractive and I'm trying to think of the word, interesting thing to have in the United States, obviously. So I think people just kind of liked having him.
Influence with it.
For sure, yeah. Like, it's exotic to
you can sell
like
expensive vacuum cleaners if you have the right accents.
Exactly. And he got a lot of respect and a little bit of fear from me. Like, he was by no means a bad person, but he was very into the structure of it all and being a part of all that. And when I believed in it, obviously, like, I could see he's somebody who garnered respect and had pull and influence where he went.
So as all this is going on, and you've got now basically, two families kind of that you're a part of, and you're going back and forth, you're still a kid, and you still do things like going to school. So what was school at all a stabilizing force for you? This place that you go to kind of in the that's not relative to those two worlds, or did you have any friends or anything there, or did you have friends in the congregation even? What was your life like as a kid?
So I by no means had a bad childhood. My parents did a pretty good job of keeping us busy and doing things that were outside of the religion that were interesting, going on hikes, maybe a movie or something like that, going on trips. School, I was in public school until 7th grade. Okay. So I did have a pretty big experience in school. As a witness, I wasn't one of those that was homeschooled for their entire life. But school, all the kids, they just remained acquaintances, like.
Well, sure. It's all you're really allowed to have, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I enjoyed myself for the most part at school, but obviously I felt a little bit out of place. And a lot of the things that the kids enjoyed, I wanted to be a part of too, like things that I wasn't necessarily allowed to do. Eventually I was able to twist my dad's arm on Pokemon, but so I was able to get into stuff like that. But,
was there something that you wanted to like play with the other kids or do extracurricular activities or something like that?
I wanted to be in theater really bad. But that was a big no-go. That wouldn't have flew. And probably band and music and stuff like that. Like, I would have loved to have done stuff like that. If I was never a witness, I probably wouldn't have homeschooled at 7th grade. And I probably would have gotten into all that stuff and possibly even let that influence my decision for college or some sort of thing like that. And I had thought about stuff like that. I fantasized about things that I could do outside of the religion, or if I wasn't a witness, I could just do this, or, I really did fantasize and want things, pine for things that I wasn't allowed to do.
Of course. You're a normal kid, right? Just you want to fit in and do the things you see other people get to do. Now, you said that, I guess something happened. Was there something that happened that precipitated the move then from, I guess, more traditional schooling to homeschool in the 7th grade?
I think it was mostly, one, I hated school in terms of like the education aspect of it. I have like ADHD. And
yay! Join the club.
Right? So ADHD and various learning disability like that. By no means consider myself an unintelligent person, but
No,
I'm not
just
a,
learn differently than other people.
no, yeah, I'm not a book smarts guy. And I find it difficult to listen to people. That it's gotten better, but basically, I told my mom I wanted to homeschool. So we got me hooked up. It was great because then I could cheat at math because all the answers were in the back of the book.
I was actually going to say, wow, ADHD kid trying to do homeschool where you kind of have to be self-motivated.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a tough ask.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you found ways to make it easier or ways around it.
It was so phoned in, man. It was it was so phoned in. I really like I said, I don't consider myself unintelligent, but when it comes to certain things, like maybe like especially math, forget about it. I'm not going to be your guy for that. Like I have to like count on my fingers for certain equations.
Why does everybody have to be good at math?
No, you don't. But it's kind of like one of those things where you meet people in life now where it's like their quick algebra is like, that's just who they are. They knew how to do that stuff. And it can be a little bit self-conscious for me to it be like, wow, I really did not worry about math at all and just cheated my way through it. But that's a small potatoes thing, like I just got through all that homeschooling and I graduated a year early, which was amazing. I was like, I'm done with school. I can focus on I can do work and I can focus on religious stuff and spend time doing my own thing. So it was great to get it out of the way. Don't regret.
And I guess then that means you graduated not long after you got baptized.
Correct. Yeah. Well, I think I was 17 when I stopped school.
Gotcha.
And so that was out of the way, and I could really put myself into and because I was homeschooling, I could pioneer. So I did start pioneering for a year.
Okay. So in your journey to that point, did you make a lot of do you have a lot of friends in the congregation? Do you feel like you fit in? Or I guess for you, did you maybe fit in across two congregations or?
Yeah. Like I had a lot of friends growing up, and people would move away or, but there were some constant friends there and I would meet people. It was great being in two congregations because I could be in my congregation in New Hampshire and then I'd go to my congregation in Maine and there'd be stuff going on all the time. So I got to hang out with people. A lot of people that I met who are now also ex-witnesses, I would hang out with. So I did have friends, but I always felt a little bit reined in, I didn't always feel like I was being my authentic self. And it was a constant battle within my mind, being authentic, but also a good witness, What
were you reining in?
Like my family was always telling me that I was too sensitive and too wanting to be the center of attention and the ADHD stuff, like.
Well, I mean, well, some of that can be true. Like ADHD can come with a side of emotional dysregulation and such.
For sure.
You're too sensitive is something that is often part of gaslighting and is something that
absolutely
was used in most of our families growing up. Mm-hmm. You're too sensitive, or I was just joking, when they say something really kind of demeaning and negative towards us, or whatever the case may be, or put us down, trying to make us like them, mm-hmm. And be inauthentic. So yeah, it can be part of that as well.
For sure. But I was always a good overall witness. I was not the kind of person that had a crazy double life.
But you wanted to, didn't you?
I did want to.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I definitely did. But even if I was given the opportunity to do something that was not, or potentially maybe could have gotten me disfellowshipped, I wouldn't have taken it.
Sure, but that all plays into then why you're being so inauthentic, right? Like that
Exactly.
double
Yeah.
life is the authentic you. That's who you wanted to be. You
Exactly.
to, or even if it's not who you wanted to be to define you, it's something you wanted to explore, or at least have the opportunity and option to explore.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Because I mean, one of the biggest things, and it's a constant for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, obviously is sex.
Well,
Like,
sure.
I started being attracted to girls at a very young age. I think it was like 9. And that didn't have an outlet, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I did start like getting into porn at a young age. I kept it secret for a long time. Eventually I got guilty, told my dad, met with the elders, tried to stop. Eventually, then I became a pioneer. Porn came back up again, and I got guilty. I told the elders they didn't let me keep pioneering. I never pioneered again after that, although I wanted to. That was always a constant struggle for me, I guess, the pornography aspect. But that was the extent of my so-called sinful behavior. I never went out and met somebody. I had never even kissed a girl. Like, I was a good boy, you know?
Right. It's funny. There's actually been a number of episodes lately that I've released that I guess the young man finds the shame of having to hide something like that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, didn't we all in different ways?
Everyone
I mean, we
did.
right, because they're taking something like sex or sexual desire that is normal and then repressing that, and then it's going to come out in different ways. You can't, it's a difficult thing to stop, though they do a really good job of shaming people when it comes to that. And couldn't stop you from finding porn, but could maybe stop you from, even kissing a girl or whatever the case may be, right? With the shame. So like,
absolutely,
you see the power that they had in our lives, that they could even shame something that's just a biological need that everyone has.
Yeah.
Well, no, I shouldn't say everyone, but most people have.
Most people, yeah. And I remember that was a big contention for me, because I remember being so horny.
Sure.
And I had a few nights where I was in tears, like in my bedroom, just because I was like so upset that I would be created with this strong urge with no outlet, and just being like, why do I have this if I'm not allowed to use it until I'm married? Like, this is
like a curse or an affliction, isn't
exactly it? It's like, this is bullshit. Like this. I was mad at God. Like, I was upset. I would pray and be like, why did you give this to me?
Well, now that's interesting. So did you turn it sounds like you turned your ire, your upset toward God and not toward like, well, what's wrong with me that I have this desire? You were kind of like, what's wrong with you that you gave it to me?
a little bit of both.
Okay, so you didn't internalize it as much as you did, or maybe I'm sure you did internalize it to some degree, but so you were kind of angry at God for giving you this affliction.
Basically, I mean,
called sexuality.
I don't know for sure, but it really felt like I had more drive than many other people. But I think looking back, it was really just suppression and repression and a lack of outlet,
Yeah, and how could you know what kind of drive anybody else has, because you're not allowed to talk about it and it's just all shamed.
Exactly.
So you may have been very normal, but you wouldn't know because they've turned it into this secret sin that you have to feel bad about and not talk about. So nobody really knows where anybody else stands on any of this stuff.
Absolutely.
Because it's all shamed.
For sure. and the way that they like the judicial committees that you have for that stuff are so unnecessarily like pointed on so many stupid little aspects involved in it. Like, what kind of porn was it? Was there self-abuse? Of course there was fucking self-abuse. Like, what do you think?
Well, if you call it abuse, sure.
You're like, yeah. You're like, what do people watch porn for? Do they put it on their beds? Like, of course there was. But like, yeah, the what kind of was it, and that sort of thing. Like,
I didn't even think, just you saying that right now, self-abuse.
Yeah, because I don't want to say, did you
not
jack it?
self-pleasure. but think, it's not self-pleasure, it's self-abuse.
Yeah.
The terminology that they use.
It's like they make it sound like you're raping yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not self-pleasure, it's self-abuse.
It's pretty ugly with the way.
No, yeah, they and then it's also, what's really abusive is sitting in front of three dirty old men asking you super personal questions about that stuff while they pretend that they themselves don't do the same thing.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
For sure. And my last judicial committee for that particular thing, before I eventually left, was a very kind of a cornerstone moment for me, because it was maybe the third or fourth time that I had met with them for that over the course of several years. And
that being watching porn?
Yeah, basically.
And you were turning yourself in for this, right?
For the most part, yeah, I was never caught. And
I'm just saying that goes to their whole repentance thing, right? Like, you're saying, hey, I'm struggling with this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Basically. Because I wanted to be a good witness. I wanted to be successful in it. So I released, I would give them that info. Like, I'd tell them truthfully. And I remember one time I was there, and I'm like, basically telling them the same thing that I was telling you earlier. Like, I'm upset. Like, I feel like I have an imbalance, like, of how much I want this. And looking back, it by no means was it an addiction. Like, it really wasn't. Like, now I know I've looked up information on like porn addiction and things like that, just because I'm interested. I don't even have one now, but like, I just wanted to know about it. You know, people with porn addictions are like, it makes them not be able to work. So like,
yes. And Dylan, you're a young man with ADHD.
Exactly. Yeah.
A disorder of the brain where your brain is in a constant search for stimulation. What is more stimulating than, well, I mean, there's many things I'm sure more stimulating, but porn is very stimulating, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And so of course your brain is like, hey, let's go. This actually lights me up. This makes me feel something, feel alive, because the ADHD brain is one that is dopamine starved and is not experiencing pleasure like other people a lot of times.
Oh, so, for sure.
Yeah, it makes total sense. You're just a young guy. B, you're a young guy with ADHD. Like, yeah, of course, this is going to be something you're attracted to.
Yeah, for sure. So in that meeting, going back to that, I tell this elders, how hard it is and how I feel like I have an actual problem, like maybe even a medical problem. And this elder, looking back, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe he said this. But he started to talk about how when men would go to war in the past, because they had no access to women, that they would give them sexual inhibitors. And he actually said, maybe that's something you can look into with your doctor. Like, basically chemical castration. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is where we've gotten. It is so messed up. I can't believe he did that. I still hold a lot of resentment for that elder now. He had a lot of other issues too, but that's the point that you're going to go to, not you're a normal young man. Like, this is something that you can expect to have, like even within reason of, but through the lens of Jehovah's Witnesses, that you can still say, like, you're a young man, it makes sense that you have such a high drive. Like, he was talking about doing something, changing the chemicals of my body so I would stop having attraction. So it's like,
and what they're doing, and they don't even realize they're doing it. And I know, you know, I'm not saying that you were addicted, but shame is addiction fuel. Shame is what drives a lot of addictions, and shaming people doesn't help. It makes them feel worse about themselves and makes them need to escape more through whatever means that they're probably already struggling with.
absolutely.
Like it's the whole thing. Again, it's a setup for failure. They have no clue in what they're doing, at least not in a healthy way. And it's really, really sad that so many men and women are, you know, feeling this shame over what is natural or could be natural.
For sure. So that was pretty much the extent of my like experience with judicial committees, you know, shame and difficulty. And that definitely really reined me in terms of my ability to go far in the congregation. Like,
oh yeah,
for some reason, I think it's different in every congregation how far somebody with a porn problem can get, because everybody was doing it for sure. But for some reason, my elders did not let me progress very far with having all that happen. It
well, other people who had porn quote problems, who had made it farther, I think a lot of times they had just made it farther before that came out.
Yeah, or never talked about it.
Yeah, they just didn't. You were this honest-hearted, sincere kid,
Yeah.
who actually believed their bullshit and was going to them and like confessing, right? Like, you're doing
Playing
the
their
quote
game.
right thing according to them.
Yeah.
But that's getting you punished. It's just like, I know people, was it on the Bethel application? I think they asked like if you've ever listened to like heavy metal music, or, you know, if you've ever, I don't know, if you've engaged in porn in any way. And the honest hearted kids who want to go to Bethel are the ones who are going to answer and get automatically eliminated.
Yeah.
Right? Because they've got like this purity within them or whatever, or naivete. And, you know, they're going to answer those questions sincerely and disqualify themselves. So the people who are going to make it to Bethel are probably the people who have lied, because everyone has listened to some sort of music or masturbated or seen porn or whatever the case may be, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I really just don't think that there's that many people who haven't. Maybe it happens. There's outliers for anything, but
yeah, I'm sure some closet asexuals in the
yeah,
religion.
maybe that could be right, and they don't even realize it, you know. But it's yeah, you get punished for doing the very thing that they're telling you to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so that was definitely that was, like I mentioned before, it's a cornerstone moment. I remember thinking how ridiculous that was, that he would make that recommendation. And yeah, I remember even telling my dad about it, like, and he was like, he's like, whoa, that's a little that's a little much. Yeah, I just want to mention too, because I know we were talking about family and I was getting into the personal stuff too, but and we can go back to that. But the accomplishments of my family did not stop there. There was still way more people that caused me to feel like I had to live up to something in my family. And I can just really quickly rattle it off. So my uncle and my aunt on my mom's side have been in Patterson since it was built.
Oh, wow.
And you can actually hear my uncle on many official recordings for the branch, reading articles and all sorts of things. So like the past 30, 40 years, they've been there. So visits to Bethel and Patterson, and getting kind of the backstage pass, as it were, to the art department were big parts of my upbringing. You know, I met many people that were quite high up in that. And my uncle was a giant up there. Everyone knew my uncle.
Is that what fueled some of your desire then to go to Bethel? Just
For
the fact that
sure.
you had been around it. And I mean, the terms that you're using too show this veneration almost of people who are in these positions. You know, they are giants. I mean, the terms you're using, that's how people see them, right? Jehovah's Witnesses sometimes claim to have no hierarchy, but there obviously is
there
one,
is, obviously.
right?
Yeah.
And so when you're exposed to something like this behind the scenes look into some of what makes the organization tick, it makes you feel very special. And then you want to follow that path and be special too. Everybody wants to be special, right?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay.
So there was that.
Okay.
And then I remember you mentioned that you've never, as far as to your knowledge, you've never had somebody who had a relative who's a circuit overseer.
Not active at the time.
Active at the time.
Yeah.
So I actually am now related to an active circuit overseer.
Oh, really? Is there another Struble out there?
Not anymore, but not a Struble per se. But my oldest sister married a guy who was a Bethelite, and they moved back. He moved back into our local area and was a part of our congregation for a while. Eventually, became an elder. Obviously, because he had climbed up the ladder quite quickly in Bethel. And then they, taking after my mom, went into foreign language as well in New York. They went to SKE, got really, well respected in that area. Went into the Tagalog field, the Filipino.
Oh, and I'll just say SKE for those uninitiated, isn't it the School for Kingdom Evangelizers?
Yes, now it is, or something like that. And climbed that ladder down in New York quite quickly. And now they started filling in for as a circuit overseer. He became a what do they call it?
Substitute circuit overseer.
A substitute circuit overseer. And I think now they might have actually gotten some circuits now, but maybe COVID put a stop to that. But they were well on their way, and they actually did do some serving as circuit overseers. So obviously a lot of people in my family were quite important by their standards.
Yeah, and they were respected. And I'm sure as a kid going through and seeing this, or I mean, you're 25 today, as a young man, you of course that's going to apply pressure. You've got family who are at some of the highest levels of this organization, right? And then, so what's Dylan going to do, right?
Right. Yeah. Like I have big plans for myself. I wanted to, a lot of my life was pushed towards the eventuality that I'd get married, because I wanted to have sex.
Okay.
But me being a excellent witness was the best case scenario for me getting married, because then I would attract a wife that would want a very Christian, Jehovah's Witness, rising star guy, So it's funny because a lot of my pushing myself was just because I wanted to get married.
Well, sure. And just think of so you're like, you want to get married, obviously, so you can have sex. But I mean, there's also this, there is this drive. So young men are being pushed to gain status in the congregation, right? Because that might attract a mate. Also, young women are being pushed. I know recently there's been rhetoric. It was like basically telling sisters, like, why would you date any young man who's not at least a ministerial servant?
Right.
You know, and they're pushing young women to get their identity not through who they are, but through the person they marry, the man they marry, right? So you're an elder's wife. You know, you're not like a person worthy of value in and of yourself inherently. Your identity is as the wife of this JW man who has also been pushed to go for a certain status so that he can feel worthy of all of this. It's also fake. You know, there's no authenticity there. Everybody's seeking status and identity through all of this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I noticed that, like, especially looking back, like, I really never felt like it was an honest dedication to God growing up. Like, it was a lot of self-motivated, like, goals where it was what it could get me, you know, like, it wasn't because, oh, I just love Jehovah and I really want to do well for him. Like, I had a very tough time personifying him in my brain and feeling like he's actually there. So I always struggled with, and that's probably why I never really got very far, because my getting farther in it was very formulaic and mathematic as opposed to emotional and, you know, zeal based, as so many people were. You know, people would cry when they were emotionally touched by something that, and I, not to say I didn't have those moments occasionally, but I remember having cringing moments with how religious some of the people were. And
me too. I understand that entirely.
Yeah.
I couldn't identify with that either. And I just, to touch on something you said, you were doing it with some reasons that were self-motivated, something that was in it. What was in it for you? You know, what's Dylan going to get out of this if he gets baptized, right? But I mean, isn't everybody? Take away the hope of everlasting life. Take away the prize at the end of this. How many people are going to put themselves through what Jehovah's Witnesses want them to put themselves through if there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow?
Absolutely.
They're not going to. They're all just trying to save their own ass.
Yeah. And that motivation of fear is another big one.
Sure.
Like, sure, I didn't really have a great connection to the concept of God, but I sure as hell had a connection to the concept of eternal death and damnation.
Yes. And what's the biggest fear of mankind? I mean, other than public speaking, it's death, right?
Yeah.
People don't want to die. And so, yeah, they use that their biggest fear is death.
100%.
There's no hell, you know, well, there's no fiery burning hell, but the punishment,
it might as well be
death.
It might as well be. Like, obviously we didn't have to worry about that, but, you know, the thought of not seeing your family anymore, the thought of being an outcast, you know, the thought of getting killed by a meteorite.
Yes.
It's scary stuff. I remember growing up being terrified of Armageddon. Even if I was to survive it, I was terrified of just like all of it, like the building up to it, the war, the having to put your life on the line and, you know, just go with the flow if it came. Like that was horrifying for me. That was probably a very big reason why I stuck with it for so long, because I was so afraid of that outcome.
Well, of course. they know how to motivate people, and they do
Surely
it. And,
do.
and they've got 8 million people stuck, right? That
Mhm.
can't find a way out in different ways. And there's just so many different ways that you're stuck. The sunk cost of it all, the fear of dying or of losing your family today, and shunning, and it's just there's so much there. And then also, of course, the reward of there has to be a what's in it for me to some degree to get people to sacrifice everything that is necessary to do this. And it's just this everlasting reward.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're no different than any. You may not have bonded emotionally with some of this like some others, but in the end, everybody's got a lot of similar motivations.
No, for sure. And I think we were very similar to most people that were in the religion. I don't think the vast majority are really as zealous and spiritual as we think that they are, and what they put on the outside. We get very good at faking it as we go. I mean, fake it till you make it works in all aspects of life. You
can do it for a while, but eventually
sure.
Authenticity tends to rule the day eventually for most people. And so it sounds like, well, I don't want to skip too far ahead. I know that you get to live a more authentic life today.
For sure.
So let's talk about, so, I know you graduate from high school, from homeschool at like a 17. That's a big time. You're going to start pioneering and doing things like that, right?
Yeah. So obviously I had already touched on, I tried pioneering. I stumbled, as it were, and never really
How long did you do it before you stumbled?
A year.
So you went to pioneer school and everything?
I didn't get to go to pioneer school, actually. It was just around the corner.
Okay.
So, and I was hoping to. I was like, I was telling them about my problem, as it were, with a hope that they would let me continue and go to pioneer school. At the risk of being too honest, hopefully they'd be like, oh yeah, he's trying. He's trying. But kind of happy they didn't, actually. So
yeah, in the end,
looking back. But after that, I kind of just coasted for a while. It didn't really, I didn't really ever get back to that point. I did continue to put a lot of effort in to my local congregation. I would go out and service a lot. I'd go out and service with Pioneer family members during the week. I got a job, which, oh my God, what do you think the job's going to be? It was window cleaning.
Of course it was. You had to clean something, right? I mean,
I really fulfilled that super niche trope of witnesses doing menial labor like that. Oh my God.
I did it too when I pioneered. I washed windows.
Everybody did. It's funny because I didn't know a lot of window cleaners, but it's funny that it's such a ex-Jehovah's Witness thing. They're all window cleaners and janitors, and there's some truth to that. It's
really my wife
accurate.
and I cleaned for 20 years. She still cleans today. She enjoys it, cleaning houses. But everybody, that's what everybody did, right? Everybody cleaned because you could make better money doing it than a lot of other things you were
with little training
for, with the education that you were allowed to have.
And that is obviously not to demean anyone who still does things like that. Cleaning and things like it's a super necessary job. So but the vast majority.
But it is funny. I mean, I did it for 20 years. It's funny. I cleaned a lot of windows. I did a lot of things back in my day, cleaning carpets and cars and detailing cars and the houses and apartments and everything else. I've been through it all. Yeah, that's what you did as one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
And I think the main point of contention with that is not the job itself.
Mhm.
It's that you are giving so much time of yourself to the religion that you don't have time to pursue something that you want to do.
Right.
So you have to do something that doesn't require a lot of background training or
Mhm.
effort that will take you outside the job, like
Yeah. Low
doing
barrier to entry.
exactly. Yeah. So nothing against those jobs. It's just that they lend themselves very well to being a witness who doesn't have any goddamn time.
Well,
You
yeah,
know?
and someone who is not allowed to pursue what they actually might want to do in life.
For sure.
But,
Yeah,
these are the things you can do.
absolutely.
Allow me to break in here for a second. This channel is made possible by you, the listener. If you appreciate what we're doing here, please consider supporting at patreon.com/shunned, or leave a review on iTunes or other platforms. Like and subscribe. All those things help the channel. If you're looking for merch, you can go get some Shun swag from the shunnedpodcast.com website, or reach out there to be on the show. If you're looking for more ex-Jehovah's Witness content, I'll recommend my first podcast called This JW Life. You can find that on podcast apps as well as YouTube. And if you're feeling stuck in life, struggling to find happiness and community, maybe you're haunted by the past, beating yourself up, unsure of who you are or what you even want out of life now that you've lost this one identity that was given to you by a cult, reach out through my other sites like exjwhelp.com, that's exjwhelp.com, or storyworkscoaching.com. And let's see about working together to help you find a life that fits you and who you are, maybe for the first time ever. And now, back to our guest.
So did that for a really long time. I think 6 years. Let's see. Yeah, 17. No, not 6 years. Yeah, 6 years, because I did it maybe 5 years. I did it for a while, and it was for a witness guy who had his own company, and kind of coasted throughout my life. There were some points where I was really good. There were some points where I wasn't really doing anything, and a lot of sitting in bed, just watching YouTube and playing video games, and when I probably could have been studying, and I just wasn't motivated to do religious stuff in my free time. I had to really force myself. So I never really quite got back to that. And my mental health started to suffer quite a bit, especially later on, which is when it tends to come up for young men and young women. Is in their late teens, early 20s. If you do have a proclivity to mental illness, it'll start to show up around that time. So I started to get really anxious. I started to feel depressed. Occasionally, I would even feel not suicidal, but not wanting to exist. Like I would just be like, I'd rather not exist than have to be a Jehovah's Witness. Like, I just don't want this. I still thought it was the truth, but I personally was like, I just don't want to deal with this. This is too much for me.
Yeah, having to live an inauthentic life creates a lot of depression.
Oh, for sure.
Anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. So my family definitely noticed that. And they tried to help me. They tried to got me to go to the doctor. I started taking anti-anxiety medication, which didn't really work that much. I did start to try and date people in my later years. But something I noticed was that I would always get really anxious when I started dating somebody. And it was the weirdest thing, because I would get really excited about dating somebody because it's what I wanted. But then I would start to spiral and ruminate and get these circular thought processes where I was like, am I really attracted to this person? Do they really like me? Do I really want to spend the rest of my life with this person? and I would kind of tank the relationship because I would just think so hard about it that I'd be like, freak myself out and want to break up with them.
Sure.
And that, unfortunately, is something that has followed me into my my non-witness days. I think it's a connection to both the God complex of wondering if you really have a good relationship with God. Do I really love God? And I also think it's a mixture of the influence from my parents splitting up and the repression, honestly. Well,
sure. I mean, first of all, you have ADHD, so you have a brain that likes to overanalyze things anyway.
For sure.
But even without that, there's a hypervigilance that comes from growing up one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and this perfectionism. There's so much riding on every decision.
Mm-hmm.
It's every relationship, or I mean, it can even just be trying to get a job. It's like, if I take this job, it's almost like I'm dedicating myself to Jehovah. This is forever. I can't, but this can't just be a temporary relationship.
Mm-hmm.
This has to be a forever relationship. Or this can't be a, hey, let's see how it goes relation. There's always this need to control, to make the quote right decision. There's so much pressure put on any decision making as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, because everything has the weight of the world riding on it.
Absolutely.
And hey, the reality is you get a job and you do a great job. You work hard at it. And if in the end you find it's not a good fit, same with the relationship. If you find it's not a good fit, you can move on. It's okay. If why is a 50-year relationship where, till death do us part, but both partners pretty much hate each other in the relationship, but they made it 50 years. Why is that a successful relationship? Whereas two people who maybe raise kids to have kids, raise them together, find themselves in their 40s or 50s, and they're like, you know what? I think we've just kind of grown apart.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can part amicably and in a Class A way. Why is that the failure?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, you really lose the sense of menial decisions when you're a Jehovah's Witness. Like you said, every decision is like a life or death decision, and you do carry. I think a lot of people carry that over into their life after. It's something you don't realize that you have.
I see it in my in my coaching practice. People are struggling with this, right? And so I have to reframe things, because we have this framing that comes from that cult that can really put a lot of pressure on us for every little decision. I mean, goodness, it can even just be buying something on Amazon, and it's like, oh, I need a new pen, right? And it's like, I've got to research all the pens and find like the best pen. I can't just buy a pen. And you can spend days looking at pens, and maybe even fail to launch and fail to buy a pen because, well, maybe I need to look somewhere else for pens, because I've got to have the perfect pen.
No, 100%. So yeah, the mental health part of it all,
it causes a lot of that.
It does cause a lot of that. And it caused me to think like there is something wrong with me there that I need to figure out. And there's a shred of truth to that, obviously. Like, we do have our own personal quirks and struggles, and maybe it is a chemical imbalance or some sort of thing like that causes ill mental health. But it really started the spiral for me. And skipping from 17 and getting out of school, now being 21, 22, around that range, I really started to struggle. And I was beginning to get really disillusioned with my identity as a person. It started to affect the meetings for me quite a bit. Like, I never had a very easy time focusing on the meetings anyway, but I remember this one meeting where it was during the ending song, and I had been struggling the whole meeting to feel connected and learning and, just having a passion for it. And I remember looking around at all the people singing, and I wasn't singing. And I burst into tears during the song, and I just ran out of the room. It was kind of a big a spectacle. Everybody was kind of like, whoa, what's going on with him? My dad came out after me. And we had a long talk about just feeling at home or okay with yourself in this religion. And he opened up to me, and he kind of said that he had similar thoughts and struggles. And I learned there, and that's kind of one of the reasons why me and my dad are we're so similar and also diametrically opposed, because we would constantly bounce off of each other. But it's because we're the same person. Like, we both have ADHD. We're both very emotional and artistically minded people, which Jehovah's Witnesses have the hardest time with those sorts of people because they're not easy to control.
You're not a robot.
No, you're not a robot. So I did feel a little bit better after that conversation, but it wasn't for the reason that that would have benefited me in the religion. It was more so just validating my own feelings and that I'm having a really hard time. So I kind of continued to have that struggle and just that detachment from it all. When it kind of led up to this one big point where, and I've told this story many times now since being out, but it was the circuit overseer visit for our congregation. And it was December of 2019. And go to the meeting, and this is the circuit overseer visit. You're supposed to be upbuilt. You're supposed to be excited and learning new things and enjoying this discourse from this very experienced speaker, And in the past I had, it was circuit overseer visit, it was usually a pretty okay time. But this was one of those meetings where I was feeling out of it. I was just not with it at all. Looking around the room like I mentioned previously, I don't feel connected to any of these people. Just the worst. I felt it was awful. It was so dark in that Kingdom Hall. And something kind of came over me. And for the first time in my life, I decided I'm going to look up apostate material. I want to see what this is about, because I am not doing okay. And I need to know if there's something on the other side. So right there in that Kingdom Hall, during the circuit overseer visit, at the meeting on their Wi-Fi, I went into my phone and I typed in the first thing that I could think of, which was JW Facts, because I had seen the URL somewhere at one point. I'd never looked at it, but we're aware of these things.
You knew it was out there.
I knew it was out there. And I read about 3 paragraphs of one of the articles on there. And it took 3 paragraphs to completely dissolve what was left of my faith. That was it. I don't remember what it said. I wish I could. I'm sure I could go onto the website and maybe find it, but it doesn't really matter anymore. Whatever it said just made a light switch go off in my brain. And then, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think that it's not about, it's about the 3 paragraphs, but it's not like JW facts in that moment, like opened your mind. It's just that JW facts confirms something that you already were seeing.
Absolutely.
You were already, and this is why it's hard to wake up a Jehovah's Witness. But if you got somebody there who already is waking up, they're already on the path, they're already seeing that something here is not right. And if they can just get a little confirmation, you can expedite the process of them leaving. So JW Facts was there for you when you needed some validation, and you read something that was validating to you.
For sure, for sure. And just as a quick aside, I forgot to mention this, but like for years leading up to this, I had quote unquote struggled with not I loved media of all forms, whether it be podcasts or music or video games. And I struggled with picking things that I knew in my head that they weren't a good influence on my Jehovah's Witness self, but I was so passionate and connected so deeply with some of this stuff. Like, it could have been and I know for a fact that there's comedy podcasts that I enjoyed so much, and they swore and they talked about things that I wasn't allowed to experience, but I connected so deeply with the people and the humor. And the video games that I played, I connected so much with the story. And even if there was violence in it, I thought it was beautiful because it was a form of expression that someone created, and it's a story, an event. And the music, I loved the music, and you can see the imprint of the artist on what they created, and they have a valid life outlook and experience. And I just remember thinking, how could God destroy these people that I'm connecting with, feeling more connected with than any witnesses I've met, and really connecting with my authentic self that was trying to get out.
There you go. Yes.
So this stuff sort of saved me in a way, because it really fed that authentic being inside me, the starving authentic being inside me, even though it was very private that I had to do all this in my own room, this stuff fed that sad little person inside me that just wanted to be out. So struggling to not watch that stuff was a very important aspect of my waking up, because I so desperately wanted to be something and experience things that I wouldn't have been able to. So going back into that meeting where I looked up the Apostate material. I don't remember if I really I do remember reading a lot more during the meeting, but I got really into it, obviously, and I was just reading on my phone. It just looks like words. Nobody knows what the hell I'm looking at. So it looks like I'm following along. I didn't realize that I had a Bible reading.
Oh, no.
And I'm reading Apostate material. I'm looking down at my phone, and all of a sudden I hear, and now Dylan Struble will do the Bible reading for the week. So I'm like, whoa, all right. Head pops out of that little zone, and I'm like, oh God. I flip away from when I was reading. I open up the Bible reading, and I go up and I do it. I do the Bible reading, and I do a bang up job on this Bible reading. I nailed it.
Jehovah's Holy Spirit helped you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I destroyed that Bible reading, and I finished it and immediately just started reading more apostate stuff, because I was just like, I'm so interested in this. And the end of the meeting happens. I was looking around and just being like, oh my God, I'm not crazy. I was a weight lifted off my shoulders. I was no longer depressed and anxious. I was elated because I was like, it's not that I don't belong here. It's that I do not belong here. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not like an outlier. I'm a being that is being choked, by something that is not authentically myself. So it was wonderful. It was an incredible experience. People came up to me after the meeting and were like complimenting me on my Bible reading. I could tell everybody was just like, Dylan is doing so well. Like, you did such a good job. And I'm like smiling and like, thank you so much. Just inside, just like buzzing, like going crazy. And just, I remember one of my thoughts was like, that wasn't Jehovah or his Holy Spirit. That was Dylan. Dylan read that Bible reading and he did a good job because he's good at reading. Like,
Yeah, good job, Dylan. Damn straight. I love that.
Right? It was like, this is me.
You can do good things.
Not that reading the Bible in front of a bunch of Jehovah's Witnesses was like a highlight of my life or anything, but
it's your intellect that is there that allowed you to read that well.
Exactly. So I went home and immediately delved even deeper into the hole of apostate literature and found John Cedars, obviously, on YouTube. That was a big thing. I think he's a jumping off point for so many people.
Oh, for sure.
And I don't really watch much ex-Jehovah's Witness stuff anymore. I feel like I'm fairly well adjusted, and I don't really need to confirm many more things for myself. Sure. I do like listening to this podcast though, and to interviews with people. Of course,
I mean, come on, Dylan.
Yeah, right. Because this isn't so much
you
about
just
disproving.
Throw away all the rest. This is all you need.
Right? Yeah. Well, there's a difference between the material that many people put out there, where it's almost like it's a constant disapproval.
Yeah, I understand
of it, and then there's a difference between listening to the experiences of people who have left. Yeah. So it's not so much anymore. I don't feel the need to disprove it anymore in my life. But at that moment, I was down in a hole, just going crazy.
Oh yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah, and just with every video and every sentence I read, just more and more feeling self-righteous in my decision to, this is not for me anymore. And instantly, it kind of went deeper than just Jehovah's Witnesses. It went as far down as like, I don't even think I believe in the Christian God. Like, I don't think I believe in religion itself, like an organized religion. Like, I really identified more as an agnostic or an agnostic atheist at that point, as I was starting to go down into my research. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. And then I learned about the CSA scandals. At that point, there was no going back. I was like, this is much worse than I thought. This isn't just that I don't believe in what these people are peddling anymore. There is an intrinsic issue in this organization that I do not morally abide by. So it became less of a religious debate, and then started to get into my morals. And at that point, this is over. I can't go back to this.
Well, Dylan, I mean, you were taught your whole life to search for and value truth, and you actually did it, and you just found out that the truth is not the truth.
Exactly. So from that point, obviously something had to happen after that. A decision had to be made. Did I want to be a PMO,
Mhm.
or did I want to be a POMO? And
Oh, and for anyone listening who, because not everyone
yeah,
is a
for sure.
ex-witness. So
Yeah.
PMO is physically in, but mentally out. So someone who still goes to the meetings and kind of goes through the motions, but mentally really isn't into it anymore. And POMO is someone like myself who is physically out and mentally out and just doesn't participate or believe in any of it anymore.
Yes, for sure. So I decided that I could not fake it anymore. I have no desire to be in this or fake this anymore. And that's nothing against anyone that decides that they need to do that, because some
Sure.
people have to do that. They have to do that in order to survive.
Sure.
There,
Everybody's on their own path.
you got to weigh your options. And I have nothing against people who feel as though they need to stay, whether it be for family, because that's an important you need to know if you're mentally able to live without your family. Because I had to start making peace with the fact that my life was about to change quite a bit. But I decided that the risks do not outweigh the benefits for me. I need to be my authentic self now. And I was at work washing windows, and I was listening to some sort of podcast, I guess, or some sort of maybe a John Cedars video while I was working. And I was just like, you know what, this is it. I'm going to start calling my family members. Because I didn't really feel like I was able to face them face to face, because it would have been a very emotional thing.
Sure.
But one by one, I started calling all my family members and was kind of just like, hey, so I don't really believe, I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. And obviously that kind of blew up a little bit. A lot of tears on their side. I was remarkably unemotional through it all. It was kind of strange. I felt kind of detached from it. But telling my mom, my sisters, very difficult thing to do. But
yeah, not easy conversations to have. But for you, this is part of you being authentic. This is part of what you needed to do for yourself.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So big range of reactions. One sister was kind of a little despondent. One sister had a very emotional reaction to it. You know, she was like, don't you want to see our grandfather? Don't you want to be there with us? You know, my mom's like, don't you think there is a truth out there? You know that, right? Like there's something out there. Why do you think you're ever going to find that? Like all this stuff. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. Obviously, from my viewpoint, nobody has found that truth yet and probably never will. So like, I just want to live my life as I see fit and do the best I can. And I was living with my grandmother at the time. So that kind of had that was a bit of tension too, because that meeting, that I had that discovery, that was the last meeting I ever went to. I decided right then and there, I'm not going to go to any more. And it wasn't even, the circuit overseer visit wasn't even over. We still had the whole week and the big Sunday meeting. I was like, no, I'm done. This is it. I can't bear to be here anymore. So eventually, with telling all my family, the word got out to the elders. And I started getting elders calling me and talking to me. People in the congregation were texting me. I remember one guy texted me, and he had been disfellowshipped at one point, and he was telling me his experience and how he struggled. And I unloaded on him with a text. I just sent him, did you know that the Jehovah's Witnesses have a database of over 1,000 unregistered sexual abuse cases in their this and that and da 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 da, just boom, like shot to the heart, sniper shot, like went for the kill. He never texted me again after I sent that message, because I think he was like, he's too far gone.
Well, he knows too much, really. But
yeah, he does. And I got a call. And at this point, I was like, I don't even care about being disfellowshipped or disassociated or officially or whatever. I'm like, this is all fake. This is not, there's no value to me giving any more time to this than I have to. If I can, maybe I can help some other people, but to see what's going on. But I didn't want to entertain their little hierarchy anymore. But I got a call from, there was this one elder that I was very good friends with his son. And I had gone on trips with these guys, and we had been very friendly, and, you know, we drank together. Like we were all very close, as it were. So this elder wanted to call me, and I was like, all right, I kind of feel like I owe it to this guy to talk to him, because we're beyond just, this is an elder and a publisher. This is one of my friends. So I decided to talk to him, and I talked to him on the phone, and I told him about the CSA scandal. And I'm like, specifically the Royal Australian Commission one. I explained all that, and I'm like, so do you know about this? And he was like, no, I've never heard of this. And this is new to me. And he actually surprised me. He said, I can see where the way you're speaking about this and where you're coming from, I can understand you not wanting to be a witness. I'm like, wow, really?
Okay.
All right. This is shocking. Like, not what I expected. But then he said, so would you say, Dylan, that you don't want to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses anymore? And I'm like, digging deep down, I'm like, I mean, no, man, I just don't want to, I don't align with this anymore. This is not ethically something I want to be a part of. And the conversation ended pretty quickly after that, which was kind of abrupt and a little shocking. And a week later, after that, I was disassociated from the stage.
Oh, so he had, wait a minute though. Did he have somebody else present with him when he asked you that question?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, no. Because you gotta have two people there to do that. You're not supposed to just.
I know. So
wow. I mean, I guess everybody already knew how you felt.
And at this point, I had been sending friends and close family members and all sorts of people texts about what I was finding. And
so, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they knew you didn't want to be one, but yeah.
Yeah, they knew
there was a paper trail.
There was a paper trail. And I was surely a danger and a risky individual to have around as an official witness. But, you know, you touched on it. Looking back, two things had to have happened that in either one are extremely shady. Either he was alone and they went against protocol and disassociated me against my knowledge, just based on me saying that. Maybe they recorded me.
That's what I was going to say. I wonder if he recorded you.
Or he had another person on the phone, not talking, listening to the whole conversation, which is that's so effed up. Like, because this was supposed to be a personal conversation with a friend. And what I didn't know is that it was a underhanded judicial committee, you know? And I remember talking to my dad about this after I was disassociated, and I was like, Dad, I did not give my permission to, but he got me to say it. he got me to say I didn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore, but I did not say I would like to be disassociated. Please, can you get an elder? Can you get like? And
But
he
in
was,
the end, I mean, and you're right, and that's a technicality. But in the end, just the act of you telling people about these things about their own religion,
yeah,
that alone is enough to get they catch you on an apostasy charge anyway.
easily, yeah. So I understand where they're coming from, but it was shady either way.
Yeah, it's shady. I mean, it's all shady.
It's all shady, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and my dad didn't really understand. He was like, "Well, isn't this what you wanted?" Like, I'm like, "Well, yeah, but not like this. Like, this is messed up." But he abused my trust to get me to say something.
You wanted to be able to talk to your friends like a normal person and not have that conversation go any farther.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but looking back, it was a sort of a blessing in a way, because it kind of just cut the umbilical cord right there. And man, wow, the people cut me off after that. It was over. Like, I didn't hear much.
Usually,
I didn't hear much from anybody, and word spread really quickly. I remember hearing rumors about myself from other people, like, oh, he met a girl, he had sex with her.
Always something like that.
He was writing letters to everybody. Like, he wrote physical letters. Like, I didn't even write any physical letters. It was just a few text messages to certain people. But like, a lot of people don't know why I left. Obviously, they
don't care. They need you to be evil so that they can justify what they have to do. Because shunning is so unnatural. They need Dylan to be the worst person in the world so that they can justify the toxic behavior of full-on extreme shunning somebody.
For sure.
Like they no longer exist.
We understand that process very well now on the outside. But yeah, my grandmother was shockingly very calm through it all. She obviously didn't want me to leave, but she understood, and she said something that was very surprising to me at one point. She was like, "Dylan, there are ways of leaving without making a big event out of it."
Yes. See, when you've been abused, just keep quiet about it and don't tell anybody.
Yeah, right.
That's basically what they're saying. That's the same things that, abusers use when, I've abused a child and I'm going to tell that child, don't tell anybody what's gone on here. Right.
Yeah.
That's what that's what they say. And they want you to just fade away, keep your mouth shut and not say a word.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what they prefer.
Sure.
Not what
all
I did.
Abusers would rather not be outed.
For sure. But she obviously didn't want a disassociated person living in her house.
Of course.
Fortunately, it was not a violent ousting or anything like that. She was just like, obviously, if you want to live your life a different way, you probably should find a place to live. So I had a soft ultimatum of January 2020 to get out. And so I looked, found an apartment that with roommates, because I was doing window cleaning. I didn't have a part-time window cleaning, so I didn't have like a bunch of money, but I was able to find a place and I moved out. At this point, I had actually met a girl on a dating app, so she helped me move, and that was a huge benefit to me. Aside from this whole experience of meeting this girl and being at home, like, this was my first relationship with somebody that got physical. Like, this was the first time I kissed a girl. This was the first time I had ever had sex. Sure. A lot of crazy stuff happening in that, but that relationship only lasted 6 months, but learned a lot during that experience.
So it wasn't a total failure, was it?
No, it was not at all. Definitely not a total failure. But moved out, got into this place, started to think, obviously I'm not a witness and I'm working for a witness. He was quite shocked by that, me leaving. And the final nail in the coffin for that was, at one point he took me aside and he was like, Dylan, I'd like you to start coming in 20 to 30 minutes after everybody else does, so that you don't stumble them or make them uncomfortable. And I was like,
don't want to get any apostate cooties on those.
Right. And I was like, I remember
That's
talking
ridiculous.
to him and being like, hey, you know that I could sue you for religious discrimination based on that?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get it. He just could not understand that concept. And I wasn't going to make myself look like the evil guy anymore. So I just left. And the craziest part of all this is, obviously I mentioned moving in January of 2020. Like, what happened 2 months later?
Oh yeah, the pandemic.
Oh my God. Like,
Welcome to the world.
Welcome to the world. Like, I'm so excited to get out there and do all this stuff I've never done before, only to be shut up in my little hole, knowing close to nobody aside from a few other ex-witnesses that came to my side a little bit. Wow, what an experience. And it's been years of that for the most part. Unbelievable time to leave. The timing was impeccable. Obviously things have gotten a little bit better since then. But it was tough. Like, I didn't have a job for a little bit. Fortunately, I was able to start doing some geriatric care, and then one of the guys that I was living with, they were both in college. He was doing delivery for a pizza place. So I started doing delivery for the pizza place. Then I started working in the kitchen. Then I started working in the bar that was across the way, that owned by the same people. And then I became a bartender. A bartender in the shadiest bar in town, the most like drug laden, problem laden bar in town.
Well, I mean, we Jehovah's Witnesses knew what Dylan was going to end up being, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. He was going to be a drunk, drug addicted weirdo. Probably going to die of an overdose.
Mm-hmm.
But that time spent being a bartender, I was one of the most formative periods of my getting out. I learned so much about people and how to be a person. Like, being a bartender, you have to learn how to talk. And being a witness, we're very good at talking. But I needed to learn how to speak the way Dylan was going to speak to people, or the right way to speak to people in general on the outside. And I met quite a few people that are friends to this day doing that bartending. Had a couple spats with drugs, nothing too crazy, but got kind of over that now, which is great. It wasn't healthy, but I don't regret it, because
Sure,
everyone has that get it out of your system kind of thing. That's not how I viewed it, but I know enough now that I'm glad that I had an experience with it. So at least I know what things are like. I'm not completely innocent of the effects of certain things. And bartended for a while, had interesting experiences in that. Yeah, I'm a little have a lack of direction now, but if you have any other questions.
Oh no, you're all good. So and then it seems like you have been able to, Well, I'll just ask you, have you been able to find your authentic self a little bit more? Have you, and I mean, how do you know what kind of food you like? You try different food and you either like it or you don't. It's not pass fail. It's like, I've said this before to people, but if I go out to a Chinese restaurant and I try a new dish and I don't like it, I'm not like, oh, I'm never going to go back to a Chinese restaurant again. I have failed as a consumer of Chinese fare. No, I'll just go try something else, right? It's not the end of the world. So trying to find your authentic self for people who were never exposed to much and who were never allowed to try many things. And then a lot of times, because we had that black and white, all or nothing thinking, if we try something and it doesn't go well, it's a failure and we should never do it again. No, you just learn from your failures. It's okay. Learn from the things that don't work well and move on and try again, or try in a different way, or try something else. That's part of living life. That's part of how we grow, and it's part of how we find who we are and what we want out of this life. So have you been able to find some things that are Dylan?
Absolutely. 100%. It's funny because I really haven't changed that much,
right?
Since leaving. There's definitely things that are very different about me. Like I swear a lot more, and I'm a little more loose, and overall less prim and proper, as it were. But getting to enjoy the music is one of the biggest things for me. I am obsessed with music. Music has always been a constant in my life. My dad was a musician, like I mentioned. Music was very important to us growing up. So being able to explore that both in the music that I make and the music that I listen to and the music that I go experience live, and not having to be like, is this okay to listen to? No, fuck it. It's all good, baby. It's
Nice.
all good. And I love almost all genres. Like I don't care what it is. It's, whether it be country or pop or like the 80s music or jazz or like everything. I love all music. But rap has become a really big part of my music listening experience, because I was not able to listen to much rap because of the subject matter. But now I'm like, everything is new with rap. Like not so much anymore because I've had a couple years of getting it under my belt, but like, the rappers that so many people enjoyed in the 90s and like knew the classics, and like those are new to me. So like I'm listening to them, I'm like, wow, this is really good. Like old Eminem and like Tribe Called Quest and like stuff like that, the real classics. Getting to enjoy that and let it influence my music now, it's just been a blast. And I was able to release my first song on Spotify recently. It's
cool.
It's on all the platforms, but it's nothing.
What genre is it?
It's alternative rap. So
Do you care to plug it?
Yeah, I'll plug it. I don't want to be one of those guys who's like, this is the only reason I'm here. But
well, no, and it's clearly not. I had no idea this was a thing. So
yeah,
go for it.
So it's the name of my my rap name or musician name is Gem Fresh, 2 words, GEM Fresh. Okay. And the song that I released is called Bluefin, 1 word, like bluefin tuna. It's kind of weird, but if you listen to the song, it'll make sense. It's kind of like a lo-fi, chill summer vibe kind of song. It's simple. I just wanted something simple for my first song to be out there.
That's cool. And you said it's on Spotify?
It's on Spotify, iTunes,
nice.
If there's a streaming service, it's on there. I went through a distributor. So
understood.
Yeah, I just wanted to do
podcast. So
I just wanted to put it out there.
That's good for you, man. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. And I don't really care if it goes anywhere. Like I'm not trying to be the next big star or anything like that. It's just something I enjoy doing. And being able to put it out there, and it's going to be out there for as long as I pay the distributor. But
oh, I understand. So are my podcasts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, other than that they're on YouTube, so that kind of archives
Exactly.
them. Yeah, I have to pay my distributor every month.
Exactly. But it's out there for foreseeably the rest of my life. And it's just nice to be able, even if I don't accomplish anything that like overall interesting or special, it's something I did, and I've put my piece into the world, and I plan on doing more. So
well, I can tell you one person will listen to it, and at the end of the day,
thank you.
if people listen to things like that, it is fun to. I love that there is a community of ex-Jehovah's Witness artists out there doing different things, and I think that's an important thing to recognize. And I have plans to maybe do some things around that, but I think that's really great that you've got a song out. And
yeah, thank you, man.
I'll link it up in the show notes for anybody who wants to go listen to it when I put this out. But yeah, that's cool. I'm glad that you did that, and I love rap, so I'll have fun listening to it, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. I even have I have a rap that I wrote a while ago that's it's not recorded or anything like that, but it's about my leaving the religion. It's very close to me. I think it's really good, but I have to figure out what kind of song I want to put it to someday, or even if I want to release it under my current name, because it's kind of stylistically different than what I go for.
Understood.
Just for fun. But yeah, like I draw a lot of inspiration from my past and my experiences as being not an ex-witness per se, but as Dylan experiencing the world new. Like, it's an interesting experience for sure.
Artists write what they know, right? Write what they live, and so it makes sense that you would have such a song.
Or not in the case of most rappers.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah. Like there's. I mean, even exjw Fifth, like his rap, like he very much does he pull from his past experiences.
For sure.
He's really good. Really good
love
rapper.
Cliff Henderson's work.
Yeah. He's an excellent rapper.
Yeah, absolutely. So today you have a little bit of a relationship with your dad, but it sounds like other than that, everyone else is a hard shun.
Oh yeah. Okay. So remembering I mentioned that I called each of my family members pretty much on one day. And I have not spoken to my mom or my two sisters since that day.
Was it 2019?
December of 2019.
Okay. Yeah.
So my mom, my two sisters, no contact for that whole time.
Oh, understand.
Yeah.
I understand. I've never heard anything either. So I get it for my family. So if you could say something to the people who shun you, is there anything you would say?
Yeah. And fortunately, I've gotten to say that something along these lines. I've told my dad this, but being somebody who was a Jehovah's Witness does not define my day-to-day life. And I'm not as vitriolic as I was when I first left. I don't have an immense amount of anger or animosity for my upbringing or my family by any means. I love them all. I miss them all. I'm okay if you or they never want to talk to me again, because fortunately I've built a life that can grow. But I will always be open to the possibility of reopening that familial connection. And it unfortunately, it won't ever be the same, but it can be different and it can be new and it can get strong again. because I can say I'm a good person, and I love people. I love my family. I love my friends. I love my current family. I love my current friends. I like to help people. I like to talk with people about deep topics. And the religion doesn't need to come into it. Even if they wanted to stay in it and talk to me, I'm not gonna shit on them. I'm not gonna make them feel like they shouldn't be in it. The only difference is that I just have a different way of living. So I guess that's what I would say.
Well, look, you're not the one who shut the door, right?
No, I'm not.
It sounds like your door is open. It sounds like you'd rather have Jehovah's Witnesses have these necessary family business relationships where, which of course means as long as the witness needs something, they might reach out to you for something. It's not, but I mean, wouldn't it be nice if you all could all just sit down to dinner and just talk like humans, and you could be interested in their lives and they could maybe even be interested in your life, even if it's not what they would want for themselves. Being able to accept people who are not just like you is a strength, not a weakness.
Absolutely. The funny part is that most of my family doesn't live super close, but I know for a fact that my second oldest sister lives in the town over.
Oh, really?
And the first year that I left, I actually went to her door and got her husband, and she was there. And I was just like, hey, how's it going? I was in the area. I thought I'd stop by. And he was visibly just like not upset, but taken back by me being there.
Shocked.
And sure. I kind of wanted to test the waters a little bit. So I was like, can I get a glass of water? Because I'm like, he's not inviting me in. So let me see what happens. He brought it out to me. And eventually I was like, so is she going to come out? I was going to say, and he just shook his head and said, no. I'm like, all right, well, the door's open. You let me know I'm in the area. So, and then I left, and that was about it. So it's not that I haven't tried, but they just don't have the ability to have that connection with me as long as I'm in this state. I think it's easier for them to not have any relationship with me.
I would say that they can't have a connection with you as long as they're in their state.
Exactly. Yeah, that would probably be a better way of putting it.
Yeah, this is their decision, not yours. It's theirs.
Unfortunately. But on the other end, fortunately for me, my dad has kind of a different viewpoint on it all. I actually talked to him quite recently within the past month. And we had a very good discussion without. One of the things I appreciate about my dad is that seems like he's completely respected my decision to the point where he doesn't try at all to get me to come back. He doesn't.
Good for him.
He doesn't
just love you as you are and not need to change you in order to give you love.
Absolutely. And obviously I'm still not thrilled with the way he's treating me. I haven't seen him in person since I left. He hasn't wanted to do that. He says it's because of COVID, but it could be anything.
Yeah, my mom and dad had bed bugs for like a year.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I wasn't, we don't want you to come over, honey. We got these man, you all must have a lot of bed bugs.
Yeah, just this ocean of bed bugs that they're having to wade through every day.
Yeah, maybe there was something legitimate to that, because my dad had been in a hospital, and I think, she had thought that he had brought something home from a hospital that he had been in. And maybe there was a legitimate thing at first, and then it just became this, hey, this is a convenient excuse to never see them again.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You know,
So
that was
we know
before
how
they
that
actually
goes.
shunned, you know, hit us with the hard shun, but
Yeah,
yeah, they find reasons.
they do. They find reasons, but I applaud my dad for
He's at least trying.
he's trying. And I had actually thought that he was not going to call me ever again, but I decided to reach out and sent him a text, and he said, I've been thinking about calling you too. And we had a great discussion, talked for a while about both of our lives. And at the end, I was kind of like, hey, I know that when almost said names. I know that my sisters and don't want to talk to me, at least right now. But I don't know what your relationship is with talking about me, because he's okay with talking to me. I don't think he tells anyone that he does.
Probably not. No.
But I was like, if it ever comes up naturally, or if it ever isn't a way that you can do so comfortably, let them know that I love them and I miss them. I'm happy and I am well adjusted, and I've changed in a way that I will not be an upsetting person to be around with in relation to the religion and everything that happened. And there's no hard feelings. Obviously there are some hard feelings, but
Well, of course.
But I am mature enough to understand the reason behind those feelings.
Sure.
And he was like, yeah, I mean, I'm for obvious reasons, like, I don't know if that would happen or when that would come up, but I can see that you have changed, and I see that you're happy, and you sound like an emotionally intelligent individual. Really just giving me a lot of respect. And at the end, he told me he loved me, which he had not always done in our calls. So there's something there with my dad. I really think he could leave someday.
Maybe. And if he doesn't, if he could at least have a relationship with his son, a real relationship, that would be pretty cool.
Exactly. It would be pretty cool. I think the main reason he's staying is because of family.
Well, again, yeah. I mean, gaslighting, a big hallmark of that is using what is near and dear to you as ammunition. So what is more near and dear to you than weaponizing your own family and using that to extort you emotionally? That's what Jehovah's Witnesses do. And
I'm okay if he stays, because honestly, he has so much more to lose than I did. I was 22, world in front of me. I have a life to build. He's almost 60 and is married, has 2 other kids. If he quit, he'd lose a heck of a lot more than I did. So
absolutely,
he would have. And what would he do with his life?
Well, I mean, he could certainly have a lot of good things in his life.
He could do it.
But that's his path, his journey. And there's a lot that goes into leaving anything like this. So just to kind of top it off, for you, what do you like about your life today? Or is there anything that you're hoping to explore in the future?
Well, I touched on my music. That's a big thing for me. I want to continue with that. I want to get better at it and get a bigger audience. Like I said, I don't need to get famous. I just want to touch people with my music, and make an impact on myself too. I have a job that I love. It's not a part with the music. Essentially I'm a chimney sweep.
Oh, cool.
So it's labor, but it's a really cool job. And
nothing wrong with that.
I do like masonry and relining of chimneys, and I work with some pretty cool people. Honestly, my boss is one of the coolest people I've ever met in my life. Really awesome guy. One of those people that you meet on the outside where you're like, there are good people out here,
Yes.
where
Yes.
you realize you're like, there are some stand up, fine people out here. So that's going really well, and it pays well. And I'm so thankful that I have a job that allows me to live a decently comfortable life and with room to grow. I have my own apartment. That's wonderful. I live on my own.
Nice.
It's a oasis. I can come and sit here at the end of the day and be completely at home. So I don't really care where I go from here. Like, as long as I always have a space to be, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. I don't know, man. Just like
I think that's all it needs to be. You say you're happy, right?
I'm happy. Yeah. Like I'm still, I still don't, I want to preface though, like I still have anxiety and I still have depression sometimes.
Sure, no one's
So
life is without
exactly.
any issue. There's no perfect out there. But it's nice that you can say you're happy. And if I was going to end this on a note, I just want to say something. You may not be able to do math, okay? Let's say that math is not your strong suit, but you are intelligent enough to see and leave a cult that you were brought up in and to see through it. And your dad said that you are emotionally intelligent, and I would agree. And so I think you'll be okay. Maybe you'll never be an engineer designing bridges that we all drive across because math isn't your strong suit. But I think there's a whole lot of things that you can do. And I think that you are an intelligent person, maybe, but everybody has weaknesses, and that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. And just also to say another thing before I go,
Yeah.
a big step for me that I'm taking now is I'm very soon, I'm finally restarting my therapy. And I plan on really delving into my past with this therapist, because I think even though I'm happy and I have a lot of things that are going well for me, I think there are things that are related to my upbringing that I have not fully recognized or explored yet that will help me grow even further. So I would tell everybody, if you haven't gotten therapy or at least coaching or some degree of counseling about what you've gone through, which I haven't, I would highly recommend it, because no matter how good you feel that you're doing in life, I don't think anyone is too good for therapy. I think
no. And as someone who does that Monday through Friday as a coach, who works with people on their past, I can tell you, I work with a lot of people who either also have therapists that they go to around things like ADHD or whatever it is they may be dealing with, or maybe even parts of their present life. But it's kind of special when you can sit down with someone who understands it and can help break down what was done to you and why it worked and what the patterns are that you carry forth in your life, and to be able to see those things. It can really help set you free in some new ways. And I love that you're doing this with a therapist. It's great. I hope that you find more things that are playing out in your life. We don't have to, growth for the sake of growth is what cancer is, right? We don't want to get perfectionistic about things and never be good enough or never feel like we're okay and worthy of love and respect and things like that. But yeah, there's certainly things that you can learn about yourself, and reframing of things, changing perspectives around things that can vastly improve your present life and relationships with others and yourself as you go forward. And it's totally worth it to do something like that.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, we many of us got into the situations we're in relationship with other people. And sometimes it is that therapeutic relationship that can help you to work through, especially some of this relational stuff.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's so important for
Absolutely.
non-witnesses and ex-witnesses alike.
Yeah, and it's not a sign like, it's like people talk about relational therapy, going to a marriage counselor or something as though, well, it's like the death knell of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you don't take your car in for an oil change just because the rods are knocking in the engine. It's preventative, right? And so
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with the tune-up here or there in your life. So we all need that at different points in our lives. And that's an awesome thing. It's not anything to be ashamed of. So I hope you keep growing and really appreciate yourself too and what you bring to the table, because um, you're probably walking around with a lot more skills and intelligence and various abilities that are really good than you know.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on, telling your story, and I know it's going to help some other people.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.